It's wonderful for me to be here. It's wonderful for me to give you just a sampler of what I do. I always like to say to an audience, especially when it comes to this showcase style of event, I'm good value because I do political and economic analysis all in one presentation. Clients say to me, well, we want somebody who can do politics or we want somebody who can do the economy. I'll do both for you, and I'll give you a little sampler of what I do and generally how I like to frame my presentations. There's been a lot of reference this morning to issues relating to turbulence and disruption. Boy, oh boy, that's my business. So I embrace turbulence and I embrace disruption. The more, the better for me. I couldn't immigrate to New Zealand, for argument's sake. It's just too peaceful and too quiet. I need the disruption, the danger, the debate that we have here in South Africa and, frankly, in other parts of the world. And my material comes from a wide variety of sources, including a number of world leaders. I must tell you, that's my dance icon, the new American president. I might not always agree with his policies, but I must say I admire his ability to move on stage. We've had a particularly tumultuous last year in the world from a political and economic perspective. Part of that, and last year in particular, has all been about trade, redefining the trading global outlook and how South Africa fits in to these new rules of trade, the new rules that we have to work under, informal and informal, is part of what I do with an audience. But I like my work because it's topical, because it changes almost by the minute. And if I had to do this again tomorrow, I would be changing the presentation once again. It's only the 19th of January, everybody, the 19th of January. And yet, well, you might be driven to drink, I suppose, by watching some of these global leaders have their say just in the first 2 weeks of the year. But you've had a remarkable degree of international issues just in 2 weeks. The implications of changes in Venezuela and the knock-on effects for the global geopolitical risk environment, huge and enormous. And South African business audiences need to understand what are the implications for the global change that's taking place. We have disruption taking place in the Middle East. Well, there's always disruption taking place in the Middle East, but we have insecurity in Iran. That has not only implications for the Middle East, for commodities, but of course for South Africa as well, given her closer relations with Iran as well. So what happens outside absolutely impacts us here in South Africa. And of course, as you've seen, just in the course of the news, rather like that particular meme, I do like memes and I collect them where I can, we have currently the threat of disruption to the most important military relationship between the United States and Europe, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. You couldn't make this up. And even for the futurists in this room, I dare you to have predicted many of these issues just in the last year or so. So it has been a difficult and very, very tumultuous first few weeks of the year. We are looking, when it comes to the global world, I have to work with figures, I have to work with graphs and charts, and I have to prove what I say to audiences as well. So there's always an empirical aspect to what I put on the screen. And indeed, we are looking at a world that's going to grow a little slower this year than it has in previous years as well. And we're looking at a world in which there are increasing global rivalries. United States, China, Russia, and a whole host of other emerging or middle powers in the world are vying for center stage across a number of different aspects. Here for us on this continent, things actually look a little bit better. We are looking from a macro-African perspective, and I do a lot of talks for clients on the big picture African economy and who's looking good where on this continent. We are looking at impressive growth rates across this continent, and for the first time, we are going to see Africa grow from a GDP perspective at a higher growth rate than Asia. That is a significant shift for us on this continent, and that's why I do believe that the action, the business action of the future, is going to be based on the African story that we are now beginning to experience. Finally, of course, my stock in trade is looking at South Africa, and one could very well make the point that we've started this year following on a better 2025 than we might have expected. And I can show you the data. When I obviously talk to an audience, a strategy session, a conference, I will go into more detail on how do I get to what I'm saying. Yes, we're looking at a slightly better growth rate in South Africa, and many of the key economic measurements are starting to creep up off a very low base, I might add, but I'd rather take a line going up than a line going down. We are looking at slightly better improvements in our logistics sector. Very, very important, I think, because this has held back our economy when the trains couldn't take the goods from the manufacturers to the ports, when our ports couldn't deliver. We are looking at improvements in infrastructure. But there are charts that go down as well. And I'm an honest speaker when it comes to what's good and what's bad in terms of the checklist of South Africa. We're not investing enough in our country. The state isn't. The private sector isn't. And that's held our economy back. And the big crisis for South Africa is unemployment. Its knock-on effect into social decay and crime is well documented. And this is a critical issue that needs to be addressed alongside other issues relating to the South African-US relationship, which is under extreme strain. And I explain that in my talks as well. Finally, this is a big year for South Africa again. And again, it's an election year. There's our government of national unity, by the way. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's like a family wedding that's been gate crashed by just about everybody else. It's going to be a rough and tumble year with an election by the end of this year. And the government of national unity, which has been fraying at the edges, still holding together, is going to be tested even further. For the big political parties, we look at the analysis of who's going to win. Who's going to win control of Johannesburg, Cape Town, and some of the other key metros in this country. We look at the opinion polling, and we try to make an assessment of where this country is going to be in a year 2, 3, or 5 as well. Johannesburg is the critical one coming up in the course of this year. Will Johannesburg recover, or will it indeed continue to be affected by negative politics and negative policies as well? And finally, we have to make a call on who will be the next president of the ANC and possibly South Africa. Those are some of the contenders for power, and that's what I do with audiences when I do these political economy presentations. So join me, have a chat to me over tea, and hopefully we can do some business together over the next while. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. There you go. There you go. Thank you, Silke.